Welcome to Judaism, the series, dear viewers. Remember, this is the Jewish way, dear viewers. This is the Jewish way. This is the Jewish way. This is authentic Judaism, dear viewers. Anyone who tells you to the contrary is a liar and a fraud, and a curse upon him. Psalm 149, Lasos Nakama Bagoyim. We need to take Nakama, revenge. That's the Jewish way. And she added that she personally has empathy with the enemy. In any normal country, she would have had to resign. And in any law-abiding country, she would have been not only impeached, but she would have been impaled while she's alive. Chapter 3, verse 8. The eighth listener, there is a time, and there is a time to hate. Hate! Hate! And you're going to convey that to the General Comments phone line of the Israeli consulate in New York. 212-499-5426. Once more, 212-5426. You heard me. 212-499-5426. You arise and kill him first. That's the Jewish way.
And this is a video right before actually it was a couple days after I went on a hiatus from July 16th, and never got a chance to show the video. I'm not going to show it just because I'm scared of some copyright stuff. A few here and there, but Syrian Cleric, it's all the Jews' fault. So it says the Syrian Cleric blames the Jews for the recent strife in Syria, and rightly so. He says, and this is a clip, you should watch it if you can, it's pretty good. You can find it on YouTube. They have two basic goals. The first is to divide the nations of the world, to pit them one against the other, and to spark war and civil strife among them. The second goal is to rip apart the nations of the world, destroying their notions, their moral values, and codes. That is what they did throughout the ages all over the world. And if you can see what's taking place, you can see that that's actually happening right now. A spat of anti-Semitic attacks mars Sweden's third largest city of Malmö. So attacks against Jews in Malmö, Sweden's third largest city, have left members of the community questioning their future in a place known for its multiculturalism. So my ancestors that came from Sweden are actually from this place, Malmö. So it says Jewish people have lived in Malmö for over 2 centuries, often arriving in the South Swedish port city, a safe haven for generations after fleeing persecution and intolerance in other parts of Europe. And you know which one they're talking about. But though waves of immigration over the past 2 decades have made the area more diverse, talking about Muslims, hate crimes appear to be on the rise, and many people paradoxically say they feel less secure. According to Joshua Kaufman, a member of Malmö's Jewish congregation, they say they're typically but not exclusively the perpetrators of anti-Semitic hate crimes are young men with roots in the Middle East. I've actually covered this a while back, 6 months to a year ago, maybe even more because time flies, but it says here, bullying has been a problem, not for everyone, not always, but very often, says Kaufman, as he took part in a regular march known as Kippah Walk. So their way of combating this bullying is to project themselves out as being proud Jews, referring to the Jewish skull caps worn by demonstrators organized to battle anti-Semitism. So, yeah, I mean, you know, these are people that have been left, basically have left Iraq, they said the Middle East. And basically, Zionist-occupied governments like the United States, the U.S., NATO countries, and Europe have supported the war on terror and create a living hell in these Middle East countries. Middle Easterns are very, very aware of the Jewish influence, and they don't really care for them too much, even though they, just like Christians, fall into this what we call the Abrahamic religions. So, you know, and you have what? You have Jews in the middle, Judaism in the middle, which kind of pits Christianity against Muslims, which is exactly what they do. Makes perfect sense when you look at the way the world works and what we're going to get into as far as Islamophobia. It's a Zionist tactic to divide and conquer. But these people are aware of what's going on, and it's in their face too. Whereas here in the United States and the UK, these zogs, the people are so brainwashed and so scared to say anything, and they're not aware of it, what's happening. They're not aware that about 90% of their media news that comes to them is coming through a Jewish filter. So it says here this Mr. Kesselman, a U.S.-born Orthodox rabbi, has had insults and objects hurled at him on the streets of Malmo. Again, another place is Russia, where they had the Zionist-occupied government known as the Soviet Union there, the USSR. Now I've seen videos just recently of Russians just lynching these people. I'm not condoning it. This violence. It's just people need to become aware that people that have been victimized by this small group of people who want a world run by them. I don't know if I'll ever get it, but they call it Jewish supremacism. Oh, that's what I call it, Jewish supremacism. They call it Zionism. So if you're anti-Semitic, you're anti-Jewish supremacism. They play all these word games, all these head games. They're very intelligent people, which is why they're so successful. Like in Russia, you'll see them, tracking these people down because they know firsthand what the Bolsheviks brought. They were 90+% Jews, and they were extremists. The NKVD. I mean, these people were ruthless. So he talks about how he's had rocks thrown at him. He says he insists on staying. It's a little hard to explain. My wife and I have made Melmore our project. It's a weird word to use. We feel a sense of responsibility for Jewish life here. And it goes in there and talks about there's around 2,000 of them in the city, with 600 that are members of the synagogue. So in other words, they use their religion, Judaism, their religion, as a kind of a scapegoat to entrench themselves in the financial doings of the city, of the ethnic people that live there. In this case, the Swedes, right? So these people came from Khazar. They had Christianity or Islam. They chose Judaism, so that's what they had. Then they left Khazar because they were run out of there. They went to Germany, Bavaria. They took on a lot of German names. We're Germans. Well, ethnically, no, they weren't. They were outsiders. They turned Germany into a cesspool. Eventually, they were kicked out. So they go to places like this, and you'd be surprised that they don't just take on the name Kesselmanson, right? Like a traditional Swedish name. So, that's funny that he says they got a nice little project going there. Former Israeli intelligence operatives now working for hedge funds. A company staffed with former operatives for Israel's top intelligence agencies and founded with the help of former head of Mossad is being used by hedge funds looking for an edge in the financial market. Go Home Illegal Immigrants campaign may spread UK-wide. The British government says that a controversial billboard scheme commanding illegal immigrants to go home or face arrest is working, adding that the campaign, termed stupid and offensive, could be extended nationwide. So basically this policy, they say, is more effective than seeking immigrants out, arresting them and subsequently removing them by force. British immigration minister said that this is an alternative to being led away in handcuffs. So this is probably to stoke Islamophobia, because that's really what they're talking about. There's people that are not for open immigration, like in the United States. For us, it used to be Hispanics, but now it's others as well. But it's not as much anymore because America's economy is kind of shit. But for like in Sweden in particular, and in other countries like in Britain, they tend to import people from Mideastern countries that they've bombed and displaced all these refugees, and these people want to go somewhere else, and so they go there and they use them for cheap labor. So you see how this works, and of course it subverts the culture, makes them more easily exploited and able to divide and conquer. A conservative London mayor said legal immigrants have every opportunity to make their case to remain in Britain. So even though the majority of them happen to be Middle Eastern Muslims, it's about immigration. And so if you're against open immigration, the policies that are globalist, definitely a globalist type policy, that's not going anywhere for a while. This has nothing to do with being British or anything. It's about being part of being a global citizen, a global slave in the global economy. You'll be labeled as basically Islamophobic. So British government lacks political will to fight Islamophobia. Rome protests Nazi war criminals' 100th birthday celebration. Scores of protesters took to the streets of Rome to challenge 100th birthday celebrations of former SS captain Eric Priebke, who jointly led one of Italy's worst wartime massacres in which over 300 civilians died. He's living under house arrest. The demonstrators, which included members of Italy's Jewish community, expressed anger over the milestone being celebrated. The rally was organized by a Jewish group, Project Dreyfus, in the presence of numerous Israeli flags was visible. A large sign was displayed recalling the names of each victim. We are here because there is still a free Nazi, a Nazi hangman who should be in jail, who was sentenced to life imprisonment and instead is here. U.S. pays public benefits to suspected Nazi war criminals. At least 10 suspected Nazi war criminals are ordered deported by the U.S., never left the country, and 4 living in the U.S. today all remain eligible for public benefits such as Social Security. So, interesting. Why are they here? Because the U.S. government needed them for some reason, so they used them. Some call it Project Paperclip. But if you ask me personally, I think the United States was on the wrong side of the war as far as World War II goes. I think Charles Lindbergh and others made a pretty good case for that. George Patton, you see of all these people that spoke up, very, very bad things happened to them. July 31st, you see this, all this Nazi stuff for some reason in the news, so I figured I'd cover it. Because to me personally, you could say, oh, you're a sympathizer. To me personally, I think World War II is a big, big part in history that defined what we're living through today. So instead of just marching forward and buying all the rewritten history, I like to dissect it, and I like to at least try to, it's so imbalanced that to me, I just want to find a middle ground, Bank of England helped in sale of looted Nazi gold. The Bank of England helped in the sale of gold stolen by Nazis after the 1939 invasion of Czechoslovakia, which I believe is just a state that was basically put together and made up by the West as a buffer against the Reich. You have to remember the Bank of England, ever since the 1800s, in England itself is run by the Rothschild Jewish banking families. So you talk about gold and fraud. The plundering of Germany, loot and plunder, the ignored cultural rape of Germany. So you always hear about the Nazi gold and Nazi plundering, but how about the plundering of Germany afterwards? So if they're supposed to have this moral high ground, you see that how much wealth and stuff that was stolen out of Germany and the looting and plundering that happened, and no one talks about it. So again, double standard. Especially when the United States, I can't speak for the UK, but the United States, of all people, their presidents actually had a gold confiscation program for its own citizens. Mind you, they didn't just put Japanese, Italians, and Germans into concentration camps, and nobody wants to talk about that, but FDR forcibly purchased American investors' bullion during the Great Depression. Yeah, on or before May 1st, 1933, right when he took power, all gold coins. One of the first things he did, so it goes to show you who put him in there. Gold coin, gold bullion, and gold certificates now owned by them to a Federal Reserve Bank branch. Many people take joy in saying Wall Street and Jewish bankers financed Hitler. Plenty of evidence documented that Wall Street and Jewish bankers did indeed help finance Hitler at first because they basically got rich, and partly in order to control Stalin. However, when Germany broke free from the bankers declared war against Germany. So the Versailles Treaty, Germany was hopelessly broke when Hitler came to power. When they brought unemployment from 50-60% to 0% with all these social projects, all these were paid with money that no longer came from private international bankers. In fact, they were not even backed by gold, they were backed by work, by labor. So to pay for this, the German government, not the international bankers, issued bills of exchange called labor treasury certificates. Under National Socialist Germany, money wasn't backed by gold, which was owned by the international bankers. It was essentially a receipt for labor and materials delivered to the government. I guess he said for every mark issued were required the equivalent of a mark's worth of work done or goods produced. In the news, on July 29th, Hitler engraved bell sparks furor in Austria. The Austrian government is scrambling to explain how it failed to notice a castle it recently sold features a bell honoring Adolf Hitler as the unifier and Führer of all Germans. So I guess they're not apologists enough. Never mind the fact that it was a pretty well-known consensus inside Austria that they wanted to reunify with Germany for a long time, that over 99% favored joining Austria, and that's what they did. They voted. A recent survey found over 40% of Austrians think life under Hitler was not all that bad. Germany still is paying $1 billion for home care of aging Holocaust victims. South Korean court tells Japanese company to pay for forced labor from World War II. This is GGN, and I'm Darko. Thank you.